Fit for Life Radio. I'm your host, co-host, Gary.
I'm Will.
Hola.
Mi amigos.
Today, we're here with a common topic everyone can relate to.
You made it sound like you're going to introduce a guest.
Yeah.
We're here with
stress.
That's our guest today.
He's on my shoulder. Or they're on my shoulder.
There.
I don't know what stress identifies as.
Nah. It seems pretty neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we're going to talk about, dive in on. So a lot of times we know it's a very generalized statement where people are like, I'm stressed, which is true. But then obviously being in the fitness industry and we meet and talk with a lot of people relate their maybe weight gain or even like, maybe they're underweight and struggling to gain weight or gain muscle or whatnot. And they relate it to their stress, right, as their main roadblock. But one thing we've noticed is a lot of people then actually attribute the more common one is typically like stress is making me gain weight, right? So then they attribute the weight gain to the stress.
Yeah, like they were stressed and the stress just caused the weight to essentially disappear.
Yeah,
right?
Meaning, like the stress is the lever or whatever that makes them gain weight. And more likely, majority of the time, what it is, stress affects our behaviors, right? And then typically, eating is a behavior.
It's a very
that is affected,
common behavior.
And then that affects our body composition, right? So in general, say even if you were like super stressed, but you have a very good job of managing your behaviors, and say you were a little bit more robotic, like myself, for example. I mean, I can be super stressed, but if I eat the same thing, I'm not gaining weight, right? Or not losing weight either. And there is some around the edges and medical conditions like where, it can be kind of more crazy, but in general, that's what's going on, right? The stress itself doesn't make you gain the weight, but stress affects our behaviors, which then can directly affect our body composition, right? So for example, like you're super stressed and so you're up all night and you don't fall asleep and then you don't get sleep. So then you're also up, so you're more likely to eat more, snacking away. Then you didn't sleep, so your natural energy production is going to be low.
And your hunger's out of whack.
So your hunger gets out of whack. So then you're going to seek more food, and that is then going to lead to weight gain, right? But if you're stressed and just didn't eat more, you're not going to gain weight. And in fact, as you'll see when we break down even deeper, a lot of people lose weight when they get stressed.
Yeah, because they don't eat food.
Now, is the stress making them lose weight? No. But like Will just said, they kind of end up being the opposite, whereas their stress is causing them not to eat.
Yeah, like a lot of people will get stressed and they're not hungry. Mm-hmm. And then too, in times of stress, we might be extremely like engaged and busy and don't even think about it.
Yeah.
There's some people, like I'm sure we all know somebody like this, that's like dinner comes around, they're like, oh, I forgot to eat. Mm-hmm. I've been so busy and, under the gun all day. I didn't even eat today. Yeah.
And I'll say over the years of working with people, I noticed kind of connect the dots. You know how a lot of people you'll see someone who's like thin all the time and you're like, man, like they're lucky or whatnot. But the more we got to work with people, and then there's some people who are like kind of like low on the BMI chart, and like you for health reasons you can end up
too low,
struggling to put on weight. And just so talking with those people and talking with people who gain weight and struggle to get it off, I started to notice there seems to be like two types of people.
Yeah, there's usually you're one or the other, it seems like.
And literally a question we would start to ask people is like, when you get stressed, are you the type of person who, when you're stressed, you can go all day and not even think about eating? Or when you get stressed, do you stress eat?
Yeah, do you immediately go grab something?
And then 100 out of 100 times, whatever the person correlated with is kind of the outcome of their body composition.
Aligned with one of those two ends of the spectrum.
So ironically, while it sounds like we're downplaying stress, I'm not, and I actually think like stress is the reason you see so many extreme body compositions, like either super underweight or super overweight, because people are dealing with so much stress, and it is drastically affecting their behaviors, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Now we're going to explain exactly why, and this is a situation where actually more information and knowledge detail, I think, actually helps it make more sense. So what goes on physiologically that causes these two states, right? And again, think about this. If you're the type of person who, you struggled over years to like keep weight off, you gain weight easily, more, you're probably going to relate to what we say. And then vice versa. If you're someone who's like underweight, you struggle to keep weight on, I bet 10 out of 10, you're going to relate to one of these. So, and now what I'm about to say too is like not, or at least we haven't found it yet with what we dug in. So it's not necessarily like proven. This is more just observational. But I think that the two things we're about to describe, there has to be, I think it's like a lot of people would probably think, well, if I'm going to deal with stress, I'd rather be the one who like doesn't get hungry, right? So I can just stay thin. Yeah. But the reality is I don't think you choose. I think that it's just genetic.
I think it's got to be.
And that's where like, when you hear people be like, they're like, just stop eating, like to lose weight. It's not that simple. Like
it's not as cut and dry as that.
And whereas I don't think it's necessarily that, again, like that people have like genetic behaviors, but we are our genetics can determine maybe our wiring, right? And our and I do notice, like, I think that this is kind of like luck of the draw with how you're wired.
I think
right?
so. Like, what is the thing that happens when we're stressed? It can kind of go one of two pathways, and I'm sure it's not as black and white as that, of course. So if you're like an expert in this, like, we're keeping it simple, but
this
like,
is just from working with people in the real world, ourselves. And we have seen this pretty clear cut. So
if you know me, I'm always on the run, up early and home late. So having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's one scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
Okay, so you have the person. So what goes on? You get stressed, right? Your body has this acute stress response. Now, one person, essentially, they get stressed, and it's accompanied with a spike in adrenaline, which then triggers a reaction where your body releases stored glucose into the bloodstream so that you have energy to deal with whatever challenge you're facing.
Yeah. And I think we've all felt adrenaline before.
Yeah. And then this increase in blood sugar right? So your body, you get stressed, stress response, insulin or adrenaline goes up. So your body releases, that's a signal, release stored glucose, which is stored in your muscles. And that goes into your bloodstream so that your body can then use it for burn it for energy. But when you do this, your blood sugar drops, right? Which then reduces your appetite, right? So that's why you notice, when you eat a meal, eventually your appetite drops because your blood sugar drops from the same thing happens just from eating food. But with this, your stress response kind of triggers that cascade. And then, so that is why a lot of people, when you're stressed, you have no appetite.
You're not hungry at all.
So but the correlation here to keep in mind that we're going to compare is notice how this one is driven by an accompanied adrenaline kind of stress response. And this blunts our appetite and can make it very easy to not eat, right? But then the problem is you do that too much, you're not eating enough, and you lose weight, right? And then the second one is going to be the opposite, right? So, but someone listening is like, well, when I get stressed, I want to eat, right? Well, guess what? Another response to stress can be a spike in cortisol,
which is like the stress hormone, so to speak. Not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's necessary. But in this case, when it's spiking, probably when it shouldn't spike, or there's a lot more of it than there needs to be, then, it can lead to all this.
Yeah. So then opposite, when we have a increase in cortisol, we can have an increase in our appetite. And then obviously when our appetites increase, we normally try to satisfy it and we eat stuff. Well, then you have when we eat, it's now it's soothing. Like we get the dopamine and all that. And then all of a sudden we're creating this reward circuit, right? So now it's like, man, I was stressed and then I was hungry and then I felt better.
So you're going to keep doing that.
Let me keep doing this, right? So, and then if you're stressed all the time, you have this acute chronic stress that then causes the cortisol spike, which then causes the appetite
increase. It just keeps feeding into itself over and over and probably getting worse over time.
And it becomes a coping mechanism. And then obviously now we have a habit of consuming, this can lead to consuming excess calories, which then leads to weight gain, right? So there you have it. But if you notice, the two things that we notice from this is just now, comparing to like working with people is like some people seem to either be, so some people for whatever reason, maybe they're wired to where like their stress response is very often combined with the adrenaline spike, right? Whereas other people, it's like their body responds with the cortisol increase, right? So, so for myself, I'm the type where I can go the day without eating, right?
Yeah.
And when I get stressed, I get like shaky, which is also typically can be
adrenaline.
Well, adrenaline, and it's also a symptom of the low blood sugar, which then, so that is what's happening.
Adrenaline,
because the
low blood
adrenaline
sugar
leads to low blood sugar.
And then your appetite's suppressed.
And then and the last thing I can think about is eating, right?
I would be the opposite.
And I can never, it's almost unfathomable to me. Like, and I know it's a thing, because we work with people, but like I can never even think of a time where like when I'm stressed that like I want to eat.
Yeah.
Now
and it's gotta be, that's just the wiring.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what's funny too, I've realized this because as someone who always procrastinated when they were younger, when I'm extremely focused on a task, and this is different than being like, a big stressor, but if I'm super focused, it's like, hey, you have a paper that you have to do, it's due tomorrow. I could go an entire day, eat zero food, and the adrenaline of that task, you know, looming, will completely keep me from eating any food, you know? But if there's like an actual maybe life stressor or something like that, that's going to be like, you need food. You need to eat. You need to eat.
So you can almost experience both, right? 50-50.
And I think
so it depends on the type of stress, which they do mention the cortisol reaction is typically,
I think it's more chronic.
More common with chronic stress, right?
So if there's just like, maybe you manage your stress well overall, and then you have a time where you're just like, I got something to do.
I don't. So you just explain it like that. Yeah, I don't have, for whatever reason, and I handle it. I don't have a lot of chronic stress, but when I have to address something that is stressful, it's like sound the alarm bells, right? You know?
Yeah.
At least that's how my mind views it. And then I like to, and the funny thing is, it could be something that shouldn't be that stressful, or probably should be more just a low level chronic thing, but like I like to address it right away. I mean, you'll know, like if there's anything, or I like to just have the conversation.
Yeah, like you got to talk about it,
and
you can't function
for what, you know, for better or for worse. I don't even, you know, that's probably why I have like gray beard, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting connecting it, and now don't get me wrong, like eating is very pleasurable and soothing for me,
for sure.
Right? But it's I look forward to all my meals and can have them, and there's very few times where I'm like then wanting food out of the context of
just your meals,
of my behaviors, my natural behaviors, right? And then, like I said, if I am stressed, it's just, if anything, then the problem is like I won't want to eat my meal in my regular behavior.
You got to make yourself do it.
So
do you make yourself eat if you're stressed?
Yes.
Not that you're stressed all the time or anything, but
but more so because it's so ingrained as a behavior, and I also value it and prioritize it, because in my mind it's like, if I'm not eating and getting protein, then, you know, it's kind of like a habit I don't want to get into. And then, you know, I've kind of like, even though it would be fine in a super short term, but it's fun. It's just a behavior.
Well, and it's funny how like the short term can turn into the long term though. Now, you don't even want to go near that. Now,
sometimes I wouldn't like eat I'll make sure I just eat like the protein and veggie. And if it was going to be a huge meal, sometimes there's just no way I'm going to eat, say, 1,500 calories when I'm stressed.
Yeah. But you at least make sure your basics are met.
To keep the habit, because it's like, well, if I don't do it now, then now I'm entering in the conversation new behavior.
Yeah.
So and on the flip side, and again, I completely understand this, easier said than done, because if you told me to eat a 2,000 calorie meal when I'm stressed, it would be like really hard.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's the same thing the other way. Like if you have your behaviors, like my meal times and my meal portions ingrained, and then you get stressed and your cortisol spiked, and then your appetite drives up, but you literally would just tell yourself, no, it's not time to eat. And you just kind of ignore that increased appetite.
It blunts it.
That's technically the answer, right? So your behaviors have to be so ingrained and so strong that you don't give in to that, right? And understand, and maybe this is where this conversation and podcast can help you to realize, like, it's not life. You don't have to. It's stress related. You don't need those food and calories, right? It's literally a soothing coping mechanism to handle the stress.
And breaking that, if you're ingrained in that like cycle, that mechanism, like, it's not fun to break, right? It's hard. And it's hard because you're interrupting this pattern, and your brain doesn't like to interrupt any patterns, and so like that gets hard. So there is resistance to it.
And then the real solution, it trickles down, right? Like, well, if you have chronic stress all the time, having to say no when your appetite is through the roof is way harder than the ultimate true solution, which is like, you need to address.
Yeah, like how do I manage this better?
My stress.
Because if it's always going to be there, we all have some type of stress in our lives, right? It all kind of goes into the same bucket. But some people are inherently better at managing it. But everybody can manage it well. It's just, putting in the work and figuring out how. And yeah, it could be as simple as you hit a stressful moment. And you're like, God, I would love a candy bar.
Yeah.
But you go for like a little 5-minute walk instead. You know what I mean? Like that's a way of managing that. And you come back, you maybe feel better because you've been outside, you went for a walk, and then you're good, right? So we're rewiring that behavior for you.
Yeah. And I mean, the place to start with that, like you said, is to take notes and realize when it occurs, when the behavior occurs. You know, is it every time like your boss calls you or you have a certain deadline, or it could be something that happens every day, right? Like it sounds bad, but for a lot of people, like waking up and then they're like, ugh, gotta get my day going, right? And they hate their job and then they're stressed, right? So, but bringing awareness to these triggers, you got to like know those patterns, right? And then from there, you have to work on. Then you have to start finding other ways to deal with stress that aren't food, you know, and then notice the name, right? Like, oh, I'm stressed. Oh, there's this trigger. I'm not going to eat. I'm going to put on some music or meditate or go for a walk, whatever it is, right? And I think sometimes then people get too hung. This is probably more in the entrepreneur world, but you know, where everyone's like, I got to cold plunge and this and that. And it's like, and then they get stressed. I got to meditate.
You got to, you're doing all of these relaxing,
but they're actually just stressful too. Exactly. And it's like, find it out for yourself, right? Like I've been down that road.
Yeah.
And,
like, what do you actually like?
Yeah. It could just be a walk. And if it's something that seems too simple, or just listening to a certain album,
or like read for a couple minutes, you know?
Essentially, just do something that distracts you from thinking about eating, and then next thing you know, you've dealt with the cortisol spike.
Yeah, it's come back down,
and you'll realize, oh, I'm good, and then you can wait till your normally scheduled mealtime and behavior, and stick to those behaviors easier. So, on a bigger grand scheme, it's like first creating behaviors that support your weight goals and body composition, then making those behaviors habit. Then you got to guard and protect, you know, which for most people is going to be guard and protect against stress.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, and then again, I think it helps too. And like we said, I'm sure there's tons of nuance to this, but we do notice. Again, we take 10 people. We can put pretty much those 10 people in one of these two buckets, right? Or like Will's, like he's aware that he could actually have one foot in one bucket and one foot in the other bucket. So maybe there's 3 types of people, right? Like one's all one, one's all the other, and one's both. But I think it helps to know, and then you can kind of like, even just knowing, then you can see it and be like, oh, this is what's going on.
What happens in these situations? Yeah. That's really the big thing. And knowing how do you navigate that. Mm-hmm. You know, for me, like, I know that if I have a lot to do, I almost have to set an alarm. Like, if I have just a whole day of stuff, like, I have to make sure I eat or prep it in advance so I can just go grab it. And then the flip side is, like, if I'm stressed, like, dude, go for a walk or go read or something, you know, and cool down and you'll be fine. So. And
it's also realizing that the goal's not to eliminate all stress. That's impossible.
No, it's going to be there no matter what.
Yeah, some stress is good. So to a degree, like you can't let it become the scapegoat, and you're not going to completely get rid of it, right?
No.
The reality is the fact that we have the food available all the time, and then people get stressed more often. It
makes it such an easy reach.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why it's kind of the most common thing for, really everybody.
Yeah. So, again, break it down. Be aware.
Break it down.
Realize that there's things you have no control over, some control over, and total control over. And ultimately, we're trying to take our behaviors, which we have total control over, get the ones down that we want to be, our behaviors, and then kind of guard against. And then we know there's going to be some things we have only some control over, and that there's going to be stress, and how are we going to handle that? Ideally, ways that don't involve food, or if you're someone who doesn't eat, you just recognize that and like learn to eat.
Yeah, try to plan it in there, or like you do,
or eat. And this is probably why. Now that I think about it even more, I've talked about this before. Like I do better with sometimes a little more processed foods, easier to digest foods, and they talk about on here how with the adrenaline type stress, it also affects digestion, and then. So things that are like super high fiber and like stuff like that can also harder to digest. So, or it's harder to eat enough of. Mm-hmm. So maybe if you are like high stress, you can't eat enough. Like you're gonna have to actually do a lot of what the opposite of what you hear, right? So when people eat too much, it's like eat higher fiber foods, and you might need to eat more processed foods and easier, easier calories.
That's probably the person that and we all maybe know one of these people that when you see them, you're like, oh, they eat like fast food all the time, mm-hmm. and they, they're rails thin and they eat fast food. Well, that's probably they can eat that and get enough calories, mm-hmm. but maybe they're not super hungry under that acute stress or adrenaline.
Well, and they're
release.
Not snacking between all those
and
things.
They're not snacking. They have a Big Mac
once a day,
and fries, and then they're done. And I'm not endorsing that as a good strategy, but that could be the explanation for that person.
Yeah.
Because we all know that person. You're oh, no matter what they do, they eat whatever they want. Well, they probably just manage their hunger way better and aren't eating as much as you think they are.
Yeah.
If you know me, you know I'm always on the run, up early and home late. So having a 3-hour morning routine isn't really in the cards for me. What is in the cards is AG1. It's a fast way to get vitamins and minerals I need to perform. I first gave AG1 a try because I wanted a single solution that helps support my entire body by filling in nutrient gaps and simplifying my morning routine. Since drinking AG1 daily, I've always felt strong and energized and ready to attack the day. Not only does AG1 deliver my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more, it's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. It's one scoop mixed in water once a day and every day. I know that AG1 is giving my body high-quality nutrition. Every batch of AG1 goes through a rigorous testing process, so you know that it's safe. And AG1 ingredients are sourced for absorption, potency, and nutrition density. AG1 is a supplement that I trust to provide the support my body needs daily, and that's why I'm excited to welcome them as a new partner. Here is your chance to start every day this season with a gift to yourself. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/provengrit. That's drinkag1.com/provengrit. Check it out.
So there you go.
Stress.
Is stress making me gain or lose weight?
Right? Indirectly.
So realize, yes, it is a massive factor.
Yeah, it's a driver of your behaviors.
It's your behaviors. You still, at the end of the day, and the takeaway is to gain the weight, you have to consume more calories than you need. And to lose weight, you're under consuming calories. That's why some people, when they get stressed and they can't eat, they lose weight, right? So how can some people lose weight from stress and some people gain weight? Well, the stress isn't the voodoo. It's that it's affecting their eating behaviors and our calorie consumption.
And they're going to go one way or the other. They're not going to eat or they're going to eat a lot.
Yeah. And the more your behaviors are ingrained and locked in and not affected, the more your body composition won't be affected from stress. You'll still get stress. You just handle it other ways. And therefore, it's, by not letting food become a coping mechanism either way, you manage your body comp. So, and for me, I've learned in subconscious, it wasn't like an intention. I guess it is now because I'm aware, but for me, I manage stress by addressing the stress.
Yeah.
Head on, so I like to just do it, plow through it. So, which I guess then makes sense too. Yeah, why I don't have a ton of chronic stress because I don't sit there and
you don't let it stew. Yeah.
We both came up with stew. And it works for me, right?
Yeah.
So then I get that reward mechanism, right? Like, ooh, or it soothes me, right?
Well, yeah, you're like, oh, if I address this, I feel way better afterwards.
And you realize most of the stress we come up with, it's not like life threatening, right?
No,
so,
but a lot of times we build it up and let it stew, and it, is way worse than it actually is.
Yep.
So
it's crazy too. And I think back, like I noticed recently I had more with some of the baby stuff.
Yeah. More stress.
And there was like a 2-week period where it was all I could do to eat my regular meals. I didn't look forward to them, but I still ate them, like you said, and that was a stress normally there because what was going on. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah,
and that kind of puts me almost in that state. But yeah, I still did not. I didn't even want So I definitely don't stress to eat. It's weird. So I'm just driven by adrenaline.
You got, dude, just adrenaline all the time.
So, But yeah, so if let us know what you think, what you are.
Yeah. Do you find you're one or the other?
Just kind of like make a light bulb go off for you.
And it might just help you learn to navigate it better.
Yeah,
when you realize like, hey, this is what happens and why, and you can make a better choice.
And ultimately, what we would want you to grasp is like, you're in control, right? Like you're not, because we are who we are. We're wired a certain way. But then when you have some knowledge and you can be aware, you can then fight back.
Yeah, you can make the moves necessary to get the desired response. It might not be easy, like, especially at first.
It helps move you out of like just being a victim.
Yeah. Well, you get out of the cycle, right?
Yeah.
Like you have something that helps you to kind of break that cycle and realize, all right, I can do something about this. It might not be easy, but I could definitely do it.
Yeah.
So a little bit empowering, I think, to know that. So if you find yourself stuck in one of those, whether you're a not eater or an eater from stress, you can make a better choice.
This is interesting too. One little thing: the difference between stress and anxiety.
Oh,
everyone experiences stress. Most people will also experience anxiety. So anxiety often involves physical symptoms, so like tension, increased heart rate, sweating. But the hallmark aspect of anxiety is a persistent feeling of apprehension or dread.
Damn, dread is such a powerful word.
Yeah. Whereas stress usually starts in response to an event or situation.
And anxiety doesn't.
And ends when the situation has resolved.
And anxiety is just this,
it's persistent.
Something's looming, essentially. Damn. I mean, anxiety, like you're going to be just cortisol all the time.
Yeah. But remember that one review we did too, where like they kind of tested to see if it like affects you long term or whatnot, and it didn't seem to.
I forgot about that one.
Obviously it would if then it's affecting your behaviors, and say you then gain 400 pounds, but or what even 20 pounds can affect downstream effects to your health. But so that's the anxiety and stress are like different things to a degree. So.
Yeah.
There you have it. Yeah, let us know what bucket you're in, or you got both feet in a bucket like Will.
Mm-hmm.
You're too stressed to eat your meals, and then you just snack.
Oh man, eat the comfort stuff, but not the actual real stuff. You know what though? That's what happens to a lot of people, right?
Just end up gaming,
Hot Pocket,
and
just
eating Funyuns,
munching on snacks the whole time.
Just numb everything.
Dude, just get a pack of zebra cakes and go after it.
Have no feelings. Zebra cakes. That has to be something. I feel like you wouldn't come up with that on the fly.
Dude, I used to go hard on zebra cakes.
See, I can't snack. I wonder what we got to figure out what this means. Like, I guess it's a sweet. I can't like snacking on pastries like that. I can't do. I would rather have like Pringles.
Can eat Pringles too.
Okay. I like crunchy and salty.
See, Whitney prefers like something salty and crunchy for sure. I could go either way. But then there's some things that aren't even appealing. Like I like
licorice.
Ice cream, but like if you gave me a choice of 15 things and ice cream was on there, I wouldn't pick it.
Yeah, I mean,
but if you presented it to me and we're like, "Hey, we have ice cream," like I'll eat some. That's cool. But yeah, there's some things that just don't I don't really care about.
Yeah, see, ice cream's going to get, like, you can't snack on ice cream. It'll melt on you. You know what I'm saying?
Eat it in the freezer.
You got to walk in.
You got to walk in. Yeah, your ice cream room.
Yeah.
It's like a cigar lounge, but it's for ice cream.
50 Shades of ice cream.
Yeah, bro.
Could you imagine you're single? And
Okay, come into the ice cream
it's like
room.
your third date with someone. You're showing them the crib. What's this room?
It looks like just a murder freezer.
Oh, man. You take off your pants and hand them a pint? There's nothing sexual. It's just...
That's just the routine, bro. You're just
man.
relaxing. I gotta get Diego to get one of those in his house.
How do you envision it with, like, pints everywhere, or like some quarts, some pints, some
It's
ice
gonna be
cream
a mix.
Sammys?
Yeah, like like it's just there's shelves of it, but then you walk in, there's like a coat for you to put on,
Yeah.
so you can be comfortable.
You gotta take your shoes off.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh jeez, man.
I'm envisioning it. I can see it.
That's what they do. Like if you've
But
been,
hey, do you think the date is a deal breaker? You think they leave you on red after that?
at least half the time,
But what if they don't? What if they're into it?
then they're probably in for life.
Yeah.
Like they appreciate the intensity of your love for cold things.
Your ice cream room.
That's better than if you had like a meat locker where it's just,
Dude.
there's just meat hanging in your house. Don't do that.
Speaking of which, did you see the newest episode of
No, I haven't watched it yet. I meant to watch it. It came out Tuesday.
Yeah.
And we didn't get around to watch. I don't even think we watched TV on Tuesday. So I'm going to watch it tonight.
So because it's relevant.
Don't spoil it. Don't spoil it, man. The worst is when he goes into the walk-in,
Yeah, okay.
and you just know there's going to be a slimy chicken breast in there.
So-
like, you know,
I got.
he's pulling something out, and he's going to make somebody smell it. There's no doubt.
So this one had a walk-in issue,
Did it not work?
basically.
Oh, no. Okay, that's all you got to say. Say no more, fam.
He pulls out the thermometer. So walk-in's supposed to be
Like 40 degrees? 30?
38 or
38.
something like that.
That's your fridge. Fridge
Bro,
should be 38.
It was like 72 degrees.
Bro, that's like
And-
your house.
I know. It was warm.
Now I really need to watch it.
But this is a good one because you appreciate Gordon Ramsay
I always appreciate Gordon.
because he takes a different tone. Because it's like this dad. This is where to like this dad owns like 5 restaurants, and he basically gives one to his son, who's like 20. So.
Well, okay.
And it's like failing, and
Yeah.
he needs to go, and you just realize, and I mean, it's just a disaster, right?
Like, he just wants to help, though.
Like,
Gordon.
yeah, and the son, and then also the guy's daughter works for the son, and they're a mess. And I mean, they're 20 years old, and they've had everything given to them, so
Yeah.
it's like understandable, but they're also like sweet in general, like. But so Gordon isn't his he kind of like.
He can be a...
handles them differently.
Yeah.
But,
I just love it.
But then he eventually is able to like, you can see how he works to then like really get into him. Mm-hmm. But like he had to kind of like, he couldn't go straight
He
to
had
it.
to have kid gloves on a little bit. Yeah.
But then he gets there and lets him know like,
Your walk-in can't be 70 degrees.
Yeah.
Damn, a 70-degree walk-in. I've never even worked in a restaurant. I know you can't do that. Did you?
I mean, I know. Yeah. Bacteria starts to develop.
Some
man,
people don't even think about it.
And then you're buying food, and it's like
I
Gordon
thought
tells
it
him
just
like,
cooked off.
you put stuff in your walk-in, and you are actively ruining it.
Yeah.
At that temperature, you're literally taking stuff, buying it, sticking it in there, and like, it's literally like if you're just buying this food and then
throwing it away
and lighting it on fire.
Yeah. Did you see the one where it was like an older one? They kept their thermometers like in the wall. Like they had literal holes in the wall, and they would just put
I
the
saw that,
thermometers
to
in there.
like hold it after they would use the thermometer to like take
Test
the
the-
temperature of the meat and then just stick it
and then just puts it in the wall.
That's where they stored it.
In the wall.
Yeah, and then to use it again, take it out. Let me check this next steak. Yeah,
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
and then they're like a juice place, That's what that was like. It was like in the name of the business, but their juicer was broke.
Stop it.
Bro, they made him. He ordered a juice, and they were using a blender, so he got a green juice, but it was basically a
smoothie.
But if you want a juice like kale, and there's like you don't want chunks.
No,
like a kale smoothie is no bueno.
No, it's gross. If you want juice, you expect juice.
It's good.
All right, I'm gonna watch it tonight.
All right, there you go. That's a way to that's a behavior when you get your cortisol spike and you get that stress hormone and you're going to stress eat. Just make a kale smoothie and that will kill your appetite.
That'll kill it. But I like kale. Nah, no one likes it.
Nah,
nobody does,
dude. I can't even think of one preparation, and I've tried it.
I've tried it every way.
Like you can have it raw in a salad, disgusting. You can have it steamed and blanched, still disgusting.
In a smoothie.
Gross. Nah, you can't hide it.
No, you can't. It overrolls everything.
Yeah.
Well, how else would you prepare it? That's it, right? You can't roast it, can you? It would just burn.
I guess you could.
I guess
you know what? You know what? Probably the most
kale chips.
Yep.
Yeah.
We both had the same look on our face. Okay, kale chips are. So here's So you take it and you deep fry it,
and it's gonna be good.
And put some seasoning and salt. It's all right.
That's how, you know what, though? That happens with Brussels sprouts a lot.
But then at that point, that's the problem. You almost lose, like...
You lose the kale.
The kale is a vehicle for all these extra calories now.
Yeah. Now it's just oil and salt.
And
of course, that's good.
And easy to eat a ton of.
Yeah, because they're thin and light. And the Brussels sprouts, people will be like, oh, like, you'll love the way that I make them. And they're essentially, like, fried or cooked in bacon fat. It's like, well, no wonder it tastes good. Like, anything would taste... You could... cook anything in there and it's going to taste fine.
And it all tastes the same.
Yeah.
Like, to me, like a mozzarella cheese stick, chicken tenders, and hush puppies, like,
it is
all
the
like
same.
The same thing with a little bit different texture,
Fryer.
Right? Depending on what's on the inside.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's bad.
No.
I'm like, you know.
It is what it is.
You know when you go to seafood places and they'll have like the fried platter? I
don't want that.
I'm not even trying to be healthy.
No. I just don't want it.
It tastes. It's just like
It all mushes together.
It's like there's nothing.
I would rather get like a nice grilled or broiled something because you can actually taste it, right? Just like a nice piece of fish. Yeah, instead of fried shrimp, fried clams, I don't know, chicken strips, French fries, like hush puppies. That sounds like a good way to poop yourself. Like, I'm good, man. When I was younger, I probably would have got that, like when I was like 12, but
yeah, because that's all you want is chicken tenders.
Because fried stuff tastes good.
Hey, let's make everything taste like chicken tenders.
Then, nah, I'm fine.
All right. Let us know. Does that send you in a rage?
It might.
There we go. Let's wrap it up. Episode 196.
All right.
Thanks for listening.
Catch you next time.
As always, thanks for listening, guys. If you want to learn more, check us out at coastalfitnessva.com or garydeagle.com. We'll see you next time.